So good morning. Today is September 13th, 2023. It is 9:04 a.m. and so I'd like to call the meeting of the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority Board to order. Raymond, I would ask you to do roll call, please, and then advise if there are any public comments.
Yes, ma'am. No public comments received, so we'll do roll call. Ms. Wilson?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Ms. Bird?
Here.
Ms. Stevens is out. Mr. Reyes is also out. Ms. Enriquez?
Here.
And Ms. Perez?
Here.
We do have a quorum.
Thank you. So any public comment?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Then we'll move to item 2, which is adoption of the minutes of the board meeting of August 9th, 2023. Everyone should have had a chance to review them as part of your backup. Are there any comments, questions, or amendments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item 3, presentation, discussion, and action on a board resolution authorizing the award of the John Hay Street Extension Phase 1 project to the lowest responsive bidder.
IT, could you bring up the PowerPoint?
Okay, so you'll notice we have a few procurement items on the agenda today, so we do have quite a few presentations, but I'll go through them pretty quickly.
We're not seeing it on our screen.
Okay, there we go. So today is read into the record. We're talking about John Hay Street Extension Phase 1 project. So we're going to talk about the purpose, the location, scope, roles, the timeline, and the bid results and the construction timeline. Then I'm going to ask for an award from you all today. So this project is an El Paso County project. We let this one on July 25th, and it does include El Paso water utility improvements. But today we're just going to award. We'll come back with the various interlocals. The budget comes from federal funds, El Paso County funds, and El Paso water utility funds. The RMA, as I mentioned, will enter into agreements with El Paso County, El Paso Water, and those will be brought back to you next month, along with the construction contract as well. Construction management will be handled by one of our GEC teams, Atkins in this particular case. And for this is John Hay. So to orient you, Pelicano is down to the south, and this will connect from Pelicano heading north up to Montwood. There is no roadway there currently. There's a dirt road, so this will be a new addition and new pavement. This is another location.
Is this outside the city?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I thought so. I just want to make sure.
So here. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. This is part of the county's program. So the project will result in a 2-lane divided roadway with everything that you normally see with our projects: raised median, concrete pavement, illumination, storm drainage, and the like. So it's approximately 3 miles worth of roadway. So this is an important north-south connector, excuse me. So the county on this project is going to provide the construction funding for the roadway components. And of course, they provide input as the ultimate owner as we go through the project. El Paso Water will do the same for the water components. And the RMA will provide the construction management services. As a reminder, we've already provided the design services, and we will handle the rest of the construction activities going forward. Here's the timeline. We received approval to advertise back in June, and we advertised from June through early July. We opened bids on July 25th, and today we're seeking an award from the board. So we intend to come back within a month with the construction contract, the county interlocal, El Paso Water interlocal, and the construction management agreements as well, much like you've seen before. And hopefully we can start construction in November. There's a big asterisk down there though, subject to change. So these are the official results. You'll notice the engineer's probable cost of construction, the engineer's estimate in terms of the engineer that provided the design services to us, thought it would come in about 28.7 million. This bid came in at 23.8. Now you'll notice there was some really tight bids there. So the second low bid came in just $54,000 higher, so 0.23% away from the actual low bid. Healthy bids, all of them came in under the engineer's estimate. And our engineering team has spent some time confirming those numbers, and we're ready to move forward. So here's the construction timeline. As I mentioned, hopefully we can start in November. We've got 420 days on this particular project, so about 21 months, and we're looking for a possible completion time in summer of 2025. Again, subject to change, but that's what we're looking at for now. So with all of that being said, we're looking for a motion to approve the RMA board resolution to select International Eagle Enterprises, Inc. as the lowest responsible bidder, subject to TxDOT concurrence. And that's an important point. We've not received concurrence from TxDOT yet. As a federally funded project, we need that before we can move forward. So this award is contingent upon that concurrence, but it is for the John Hay Street Extension Phase 1 project. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I would recommend approval of this item.
I've got a question. So is that a local company? Because I noticed that number 2 and number 3, I mean, I recognize those are local companies. I just wondered.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
does that factor in?
It does not. So RMAs don't have the ability to provide points for local, but that primarily comes in with consultant selections. Construction selections we are normally doing under low bid. So it's really just a price-based selection. But this firm is local. In fact, we've used them before.
So we do have a track record with them in
Yes, ma'am.
terms of performance?
Yes, ma'am. And in fact, actually, they just completed a project for TxDOT along I-10 on the far east side. They completed ahead of schedule.
Okay, good. Are there any other questions? Yes.
Have they done a project for us before?
Yes, sir. They did Nuevo Waco tanks.
Was that the one that did?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I second it.
We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, moving on to just agenda item 4, presentation, discussion, and action on a procurement process for the selection of a pool for underwriting services.
IT, could you bring up the PowerPoint for item 4? Thank you. Good morning, Robert Studer, Director of Finance for the record. Online via Teams with us this morning is Emily Hunley from our financial advisor, Hilltop Securities, in case you have any questions for her. She helped with putting together this PowerPoint. So just a couple of things to note. One, I'm going to give you up front, there's no cost to the RMA. Hilltop is going to support the RMA through this process, and we are not bound to or committed to calling on the bonds. This is just to be prepared in case we want to next summer. So this is preliminary work. If interest rates are not good or we can't find a favorable deal, we will not move forward. And this item was reviewed by the Finance Committee at our August meeting. So the RMA last selected a pool of underwriters in 2014. That was to be used on the first VRF. We used that same pool for the second VRF bonds in 2017. It's been quite a while since then, so we think it's wise to refresh that pool, and so that is what we're bringing forward to you today. This is who was selected back in 2014, consisted of 3 national firms, 3 regional firms, and 3 minority or women-owned businesses. So why are we doing this? Again, we have a call date on June 1st of 2024 for the VRF1 bonds. We will also have a call date on June 1st of 2027 for VRF2. We are eligible to call all principal beyond that's due beyond 2024 if we find a favorable deal. We would only move forward with the board's input and direction, so we will be back before you if we do find a favorable deal and bring that to you. So we will not be acting on our own. We will seek board input. This is our proposed timeline. We took it to the committee in August, bringing it to you now. Later this month, we'll issue the procurement and then have responses due in October. Hilltop will help us with reviewing the proposals and scoring, and then in November, possibly bring that back to you all for approval and notify in December. As a reminder, there is no cost for issuing this, and there is no guarantee to any of the firms that there will be a transaction, but it does give us that option. We do propose a selection committee with someone from the city, someone from the county, bond counsel Paul Braden, and then 2 folks from Hilltop, Richard Ramirez and Emily Hunley. And a reminder, she is on in case you have any questions for her. This, I think, is the most important thing for you all today, is to approve this scoring criteria and make sure that you are comfortable with this. So we have 40 points for experience with similar refinancings, approach to structuring and marketing that most effectively meets our objectives is 25. 15 is the underwriter's capacity. 10 is the cost to do it. And then 10 points for other factors, including their references, case studies, and new financing ideas, which will all be part of the procurement, and we'll ask them for that. As you know, the RMA likes to think outside the box and are open to new ideas, so if we get something like that, that would go far. So our request for you all today is a motion to authorize the procurement process for an underwriter pool and approve the scoring criteria as presented. And with that, both I and Ms. Hunley are available for questions.
Has the criteria changed since 2017, the scoring criteria?
Yes, we believe we did modify it slightly. I think we put more points. IT, can you? Thank you. I think we put more points. That one, since it was the initial, it was a little bit different than doing an early calls, and so we did modify it a little bit.
And is this considered standard best practice?
Yes, this came from Hilltop, who does this frequently, and so we're using the criteria that they suggested.
So it says 10 on cost of funds. You're saying there's no cost if we don't decide to move, but if we do move, there is cost.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions?
But the cost of funds is not a fee, it's literally just the
Well, it'd be
bond.
a fee to the underwriters, their cost for
Their cost. Okay.
participating in the transaction, underwriting the transactions, it would be their cost.
Okay.
So if their costs are less to us, it's a more favorable point
Yes.
factor for the overall project, overall award. Okay, so if there are no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I second it.
We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to item 5, discussion and action on a board resolution authorizing the advertisement of a construction letting for the Fabens Sidewalks project.
IT, could you bring up the PowerPoint for item 5?
Okay, we have another procurement for you all today. This is Fabens Sidewalks project. We'll talk about the project purpose, location, scope, and the project timelines. And ultimately, I'm going to ask for authorization to advertise this one. This project is also a County of El Paso project, and we're planning to let this one in the fall of 2023. The budget comes from El Paso County funds, and at some point, we will enter into an agreement with El Paso County where they would provide the funding and we'll provide the construction management. As a reminder, this one we have designed under county funds as well already. Project management will be completed by the RMA through one of its GEC teams. So in red, what you see are the areas that where the sidewalks will be added, all those red lines. So it's quite a bit of sidewalks being added to Fabens. This is part of your backup, so hopefully you've got access to this as well. So it consists of constructing 5-foot sidewalks, residential driveways, ADA compliance ramps, signs, pavement markings, and at crosswalks for each of these streets within Fabens, the streets listed there. So we'll do some reconstruction of certain driveways as well. Those are required by ADA continuity requirements, so that will come into play. But primarily, we're not really doing a lot of driveways. This is the same relationship between the county and the RMA as you've seen before. They'll provide the construction funding and input as the ultimate owner. We will prepare and let the project for bid, and we'll also provide construction management services once we move into that phase. Here's the timeline. On the 10th, we've provided the first advertisement out on the street. On the 17th, we'll provide the second one. We look to open bids on the 19th, and for December 13th, we hope to be back with awards. You'll note that we've already put an advertisement out there, so this one we should have brought to you last month, so I apologize for that. So we're a little ahead, we got a little ahead of ourselves. This is, for this one, we anticipate contractors start in February of '24, take about 8 months, and we're hoping to complete within the fall of 2024. And so that's what I have for you. So I would request, I believe included in your backup is a resolution that authorizes the advertisement for a construction letting on this particular project. So I would ask for that motion.
Is that, is February kind of an usual time frame between now and starting for a project that doesn't seem like it's that extensive?
Well, we still have to let the project, so it's not, it just barely hit the streets
Okay.
this prior Sunday, so we still have quite a ways to go
So you
before
have,
we
what,
can even
30
award.
day, is it 30 days on the street or 45?
I
Can you
think
go
we've got
back?
20,
I believe it's October 19th is the bid opening.
is that, okay.
So about 30, a little over 30 days? All right. Okay, that's fine, I just was curious. All right. Any questions? Comments, concerns? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 6, discussion and action on board resolutions authorizing the following actions for the automated weather observing system project at the El Paso County Fabens Airport. 6A, advertise a construction letting. B, execute an amendment to the interlocal with El Paso County. And C, execute an amendment to work authorization number 44 with Atkins North America, Inc.
We've got another quick PowerPoint for you on this one, because we are also asking for authority to advertise a letting for this particular project. Okay, so we'll go through the usual items, the purpose, location, scope, timelines, and that sort of thing. So as you know, we are supporting El Paso County's efforts to improve their Fabens Airport. They have a relationship with UTEP, where they are building out their airport to serve as a research facility. One of the areas, so you may recall, we're designing hangars, box hangars, T hangars, all sorts of other improvements. One of the improvements that's really important for this particular airport is the automated weather observing system, the AWAS system. That is essentially what it sounds like, right? So that's a weather system that's located at the airport that provides real-time data to pilots that they can utilize as they're midair, as they're coming in or leaving. So it's a really important system that we're adding. We're hoping to let this one in late fall of 2023. The budget will come from El Paso County, and we'll enter into agreements with them. We will manage the construction of this one through one of our GECs as well. Here's an aerial of the airport to give you a feel. That's I-10 to the right side of the screen, and that's Fabens down below. Here's a couple of sketches to show you what we're looking at, and placement there as well, just off the runway. So I mentioned what this does, provides continuous real-time weather information and reports for pilots so that they can make adjustments mid-flight. Really important system that we're adding here, I think. Same roles of each party. They'll provide construction funding and guidance, and we'll provide the letting services, and we will do construction management once we get to that point. October 1st is what we're planning for the first advertisement. October 2nd will be the second advertisement. November 28th, we're hoping to open bids, and then we'll be back in December, hopefully, to do the awards. Looking to start construction in February, this with approximately 3 months to complete, so it's a pretty quick turnaround, so we should be done by late summer. So same idea here. I'd be asking for, and this is under item 6A, I should be clear. 6A is a motion, I actually have a board resolution in your backup. I'd ask for approval of that board resolution that authorizes the advertisement of the construction letting. But while we're on this item, before we move on item 6A, I'd mention items 6B and 6C. To provide the funding necessary for these activities, we've got an amendment to the interlocal agreement that we have with the County of El Paso. That's under item 6B. And then item 6C is an amendment to the work authorization with Atkins to provide the additional services necessary to complete these activities. So that's what you have before you. Happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I'd recommend approval of all items 6A, B, and C.
Any questions? I'll entertain a motion then.
So moved.
I second it.
We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 7, discussion and action on a board resolution authorizing the execution of a construction contract and change order number 1 with Tri-State Electric for the El Paso streetcar miscellaneous projects.
Okay, we've got another PowerPoint for you on this one. This one, you may remember, I came to you all in July, and you all awarded the project subject to some restrictions. So I'll go through this one pretty quickly because you've seen some of this before. This relates to the streetcar. You'll remember some of these slides. This is from the actual July board item. So in essence, the funding source for the project has some remaining funds, and that's what we're looking to do here, is to use the remaining grant funds for the project. So this was the original base bid that had 5 packages plus 2 alternates. Ultimately, we had one contractor supply a response, and you all awarded to this contractor. However, as you note, the probable cost of construction, the engineer's estimate, was much lower than the bids that came in. So the motion in July had 3 actions in it. Select Tri-State Electric as the lowest responsible bidder. However, that second one is the important one. It authorized me to negotiate a construction contract and an initial change order to conform the project scope with the available funds. So in essence, I had to come back with a contract that fit within the budget and deal with some of the scope issues. And then that third item was to come back with a contract and a change order to conform. So that's what we've done. We've met with the contractor. You'll note this is the same slide as before, but I've highlighted the areas that are changing. So you'll see under package 2, there's a reduction in scope that results in a reduced price. Under package 3, we've removed guardrails, and we've removed some ornamental sidewalk guardrails as well. And that brought down the pricing quite a bit. Under add alternate 1, then we reduced scope in the modular wall system to reduce price as well. And through those actions, the original bid amount of $326,000, we've reduced that by $140,000. And now the new construction contract total with the change order would be $186,733. So we are within the project budget now. So with all of that being said, then I'm asking for there's a resolution as part of your backup and so the motion would be to approve a board resolution to authorize the execution of the following instruments with Tri-State for this particular project. It's the construction contract and change order number 1. Happy to answer any questions, but I would recommend approval.
Are there any questions? Then I'll entertain a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Agenda item 8, discussion and action on board resolutions authorizing the execution of amendments to the following instruments as they relate to the Tierra Este Road project. A, interlocal agreement with El Paso County. B, work authorization number 1 with Dannenbaum Engineering Company, El Paso LLC. And C, work authorization number 38 with Atkins North America.
Okay, for this one, we don't have a PowerPoint, but we do have a graphic I'd ask IT to bring up. It's part part of the PDFs that were listed. But I'll start briefing you on this one as they bring that up. We are asking for 3 actions as read into the record: an interlocal amendment with the county. That's to provide additional funding for additional services. And I should back up. The gist, the issue that we're had with this project is there's been quite a bit of additional coordination required. Utility coordination, there's illumination issues that came up. There was a question about sound, the requirement for a sound wall. So all of that additional coordination required additional services from the design firm. So what you see under item 8B is an increase in the services, and they're essentially the same services that we originally contracted for, but there's an addition to them by Dannenbaum Engineering. We do have a representative from the company here if you have any questions of them. So that's item 8B. Item 8C increases the oversight fees available to Atkins to provide that additional oversight as the engineer completes these services. And then initially under item A, it's the county providing the additional compensation necessary to accomplish items 8, B, and C. And so as you see on the screen there, to orient you, Pelicano's down on the south side. This Tierra Este will connect Pelicano up to Cozy Cove. So it's another really important north-south connector on the far east side. So that's what we're asking from you today. I don't see anybody from the county here today. However, the county has reviewed and approved these additional services and the additional compensation. So happy to answer any questions, but I would recommend approval of items 8A, B, and C.
I don't have any issue with it. I'm just curious, why weren't those things contemplated in the first place?
This one, there was I've gone blank. What was the, help me with the items that came up unforeseen? That's right. That's right. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. I went blank on it. So this project was originally designed to be a much thinner roadway. After TxDOT's review, they required an additional 6 feet to be acquired. So that there was a domino effect from that impacted all sorts of things, including a reevaluation of whether or not a sound wall was required for neighborhoods. And that one action really started a chain reaction with a whole bunch of reviews. So that's what started it. Thank you for that.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, so am I reading this right, that like the second one is an extra 720,000, and then the other ones are the 30, and then?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 9, discussion and action on board resolutions authorizing the execution of the following instruments as they relate to the Rodman Street Shared Use Path Project. A, interlocal agreement with the town of Horizon City. B, work authorization number 1 with Consor Engineers LLC. And C, work authorization number 2 with HNTB Corporation.
Okay, I've got another graphic for you on this one, but I'll start rolling this one out. This one is read into the record is Rodman. This is a short trail that the town of Horizon City received funding for from Congressman Escobar, and it connects an existing trail to a park that the town of Horizon City has. If you'll scroll up on that a little bit, that'll give you a feel for where it is. It's the white line there identified. So the major intersection there is Horizon Boulevard and Darrington. So that's the extent of this project. This is an important one because it's one of our first projects with Horizon City directly, but it's also our first actual project getting off the ground with HNTB as one of our GEC, one of our general engineering consultant teams. And it's also the first project that we are awarding directly to Consor through our IDC program. So a lot of firsts with this one. So we're excited about this one. Horizon City has already approved the interlocal for this project, and we will provide the design and the construction activities for this one eventually once we move into that phase. So happy to answer any questions, but that's what this project is. I would recommend approval of items 9A, B, and C.
Any comments or questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So
Move
moved.
to- Move to approve.
I second it.
We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item number 10, presentation and discussion on change orders recently approved by the executive director.
Promise, this is the last PowerPoint. This is, this is required by the board resolution that was approved several years back that relates to change orders. As you will recall, the board has authorized expenditures on change orders up to $100,000, provided I come back and let you know what we've done. So we've got two change orders that we're going to talk about today. So the first one relates to the county passenger shelters and sidewalks program with El Paso County. Item 7 is still pending, so I'll be back to you at a later date for that one. Item 8 is the cleanup. So as you may recall, when we come to the end of a construction project, we have a cleanup change order. That's where we identify overruns and underruns, and we clean up the financing for the project. In this case, through the cleanup change order, we are actually deducting, it's a negative. So $31,000 was not used in actual expenditures. So that's what you see here. That was approved by me, I want to say earlier this week, maybe late last week. So that was done. The second one, you've already taken action on. This is the change order for the streetcar project that you actually moved on, so that is now approved. And that is all I have for you on this one. No action is required. This is just for update purposes.
Any comments or questions? Okay, so then we're going to move to item 11, but before we do, I just want to say it's really nice to see all this construction activity moving forward and the diversity of the projects, and so it's pretty exciting. And so keep up the good work. The other thing is, when did we have our last strategic planning session? Was it last year?
It was about a year and a half, so we're coming up I want to say in January, we should have our next planning.
Okay, so next year, in 2024, we need to schedule a time to do some work, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So before the end of the year, could we kind of go through the plan? Maybe have the planning committee meet and go through the plan, see like kind of where we're at with different things? And maybe in December, at our December meeting, as we wrap up the calendar year, just have an update
Sure,
on
absolutely.
the execution of the most recent plan. And then speaking of December, I'm wondering if it would be possible to move the meeting up a week to the first Wednesday instead of the second. I want to say it's the 6th instead of the 13th. I'm not sure of those exact dates. Let me get my calendar out here. Sorry. And the reason is that it would be a little, I think, for holiday purposes, it would actually maybe be better to wrap up a little earlier if it's possible. If it's an inconvenience to people, if there's other major conflicts, I don't want to mess that up for you. So let me see, it is the 6th, Wednesday the 6th. Does anyone have a conflict on Wednesday the 6th,
I
the
have a
1st?
question. Robert, will we be meeting for the finance committee in December? No?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Then I don't see no problem with the 6th.
So you don't either? Okay.
No.
Jim? Okay, perfect. So if we could just make a note of that, it'll be a little sooner. Well, we're meeting on the 8th of November because the way November is, the 1st is on a Wednesday, so it's like an earlier date. So it's almost a month anyway, because there's like an extra week in there. And that way we get past the holiday for Thanksgiving, then we can wrap up, and then it gives everybody a chance because there's less than 2 weeks to the holiday, so it kind of makes it easier for everybody. There's a lot of stuff going on. And then that meeting, potentially, we could then have our wrap-up, wrap up any projects outstanding, make sure any major business that needs to be done, we get done
Yes,
for
ma'am.
the year. Like, looking at everything we've just done, it looks like there's nothing, all that stuff's not going to come to fruition until we get into the next year anyway. And that way, we're kind of set for the end of the year.
Yes, ma'am.
Have a good wrap-up and everything is in order in that respect. Thank you, I really appreciate that. So, with that then, well, the other thing I wanted to mention before we get into the projects is that last week, was it last week? Or the week before, the new TxDOT Board Commissioner, Alex Mead, was here. And Raymond and I were invited by the senator to a community forum. He's going to be a really great new, I think, commissioner. He's from the Rio Grande Valley, so he has a lot of experience on the U.S.-Mexico border. Coincidentally, he was a city manager early in his career and worked in some of the border communities, so that was kind of nice, like reconciliation when we met. And so I think he's going to be a really good ally and advocate for making sure that the border gets the attention it deserves in terms of infrastructure projects as it relates to the movement of goods and services, ports of entry, all of the infrastructure that connects them. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he's going to impact the commission in terms of allocation of monies. And so that was a very productive meeting. And during that meeting, we did have an opportunity to have some conversations with TxDOT about getting the opportunity to maybe have them work with us a little more and help execute some of their projects. So hopefully we'll see some fruition down the road with that, and with some of the city people who were there. So we'll see how that goes. And so with that, then I'll go to item 11, which are the quarterly presentations, updates and discussion on the following. A, the Borderland Expressway project. B, the 2013 El Paso County Comprehensive Mobility Plan. And C, Pelicano Drive widening project.
So for this item, I'll ask Mr. Smith to provide an update on the Borderland Expressway project. I was unable to attend the last meeting, so. Mr. Smith?
Okay, Borderland Expressway is a project that y'all know about. We've been working on that for a long time. There was a coalition formed that we've talked about several times before, and that coalition has kind of been put forth across the entire system as really a neat way to do stuff. And so they're looking at future projects big projects that they're looking at forming up similar type coalitions to do. And the first one that's being discussed, just as a sidebar, is a coalition to bring together all of the interested parties, stakeholders, and different departments and activities for the border highway extension. Basically takes and bypasses the really crowded area of Socorro Road, goes off from the border highway along the river until it gets down to where the congestion is over, down into the Clint area. So they're looking at forming up a coalition for that, and so to kind of keep your eyes on the news reel, that see what comes up as far as that. The Borderland Expressway, we had the last coalition meeting hosted by TxDOT a few weeks ago. A couple key items came out of that. Number one, project is really, really well received, but not well received enough to get anything other than the first $20 million. We got the rug pulled out from underneath us at the UTP unveiling, and all of the other entities within the state got the big bucks, and we didn't end up with much for our region at all. And so that was a disappointment, because the project is really well thought of by the state, well received by everybody, as Joyce found out in the different meetings with the commission, Transportation Commission, et cetera. So that was a big disappointment. On the good news side, the New Mexico side, They have gotten their full funding, and now they are going after, the state is submitting a grant application under this infrastructure bill to get the money to build flyovers at the roundabout where 213 meets 404, and also the intersection of 404 and I-10. So they were really upbeat and very good and very excited about everything that's going on. Their project is, with the exception of those flyovers, is fully funded, and they are well in the process of construction for 404, and they're just about ready to pull the lanyard for construction of on 213, let contracts, et cetera. TxDOT has been just been an amazing entity to work with on all of this, the local district office, and everything ended up on a real positive note. So the only thing we're missing is money for the Borderland Expressway. But they had really high hopes for this UTP, and they didn't come to fruition, so they're working on the next one. So that's pretty much it for the Borderland Expressway. The coalition is no longer, we officially dissolved it, and so that was just an amazing experience watching so many entities work together so well to put together a really neat project. So it was fun to be associated with that.
Why is it dissolved?
Huh?
Because, why is it dissolved?
All the work's done,
So it's
except
just
for
to get money? So has there been any conversations about grant applications for some
Yeah.
of this money?
State won't let us,
They won't let, why?
because they don't want it, if I'm speaking out, if I mess this up, it's because I'm not the expert, but my understanding is the state wants to control all of the money that is submitted for grant applications within the state. And they want it to go towards their priorities as they're established. So and so it's way beyond my capability to figure out, because we submitted letters that you signed to TxDOT asking for the ability for the RMA to team up with them and submit grant applications and all that. And that hasn't happened. So it's a function of political clout, and that's where we
Okay.
are. Did I mess that up at all? Is that pretty straight?
No, that's right. I think there's an effort at coordination from the state on which grant applications are going in. But there was also initially we were asked to pull back because there was a lot of hope that the UTP would come through with some funds. So since that didn't, perhaps we can revisit that conversation with them.
I actually think we should. And also look at whether there's some alternative funding where we could float debt and do the project and get reimbursed in a payment plan,
Yeah,
and see if they're open to that.
I can do that. I'll
And I
visit
also
with them.
think, I don't know how to do this, but I think we should reach out to, like, our congressional delegates, Congressman Gonzalez and
Congressman
Congresswoman
Gonzalez.
Escobar.
He's very interested.
Because I think that this is an important project in this area, and if they're gonna do the I-10 widening, they need to have this project functioning as an alternative route. They're gonna need this project to be done before they start the other one in earnest, I think, from just a traffic management perspective. They cannot think that you're gonna be able to use access roads to get traffic through the downtown. And you can't go over the highway, you can't go over Trans Mountain, you're not gonna be able to divert You could divert it south on the border highway south, but, I mean, still, the capacity for through truck traffic is gonna be a nightmare if they don't figure out an alternative way to divert it.
I can do that. I'll reach out.
I think that's the thing from a safety perspective that we really need to focus on.
And we had spoken with Congressman Gonzalez's staff about pursuing specific grant funding for amenities, trails, and that sort of thing. Once the design got completed for Borderland Expressway, we talked about carving that trail system out and pursuing that. So we can still, I think we're still looking at that piece. But the roadway, we can roll that back into the conversation with TxDOT as well.
Yeah, okay. I just think we need to emphasize to them, if they have any plans for downtown expansion, they've got to get this project done.
I might add that the MPO and TxDOT are huge champions for this. They push for it. And everybody, when the final UTP was announced, they felt for sure that we were gonna get a hunk of that, and it didn't happen. So the air went out of the sails just like that, from very high hopes to not happening. And that's a function that happens because it happens.
Okay, so I'll be in Austin, not this weekend, but next weekend, for that Texas Tribune thing. And there'll be a bunch of people there, so I'll make a point to talk to some folks. Just
Okay.
to see, like, what's going on. I think the Senator Blanco will be there. I'll see if I can't visit with him too. Okay, thank you. So we can go to B?
Item B is included as part of your backup, so I'm happy to answer any questions, but I won't walk you through that one. And then that takes us to Pelicano, which, yes, ma'am. Before we do that, I'd like to share a couple of developments with the public first, and then I'll ask you to move us to executive session. So I normally update you all on our outreach efforts. Fielded quite a number of calls this last month, some emails and that sort of thing with the public where they're asking for updates. Provided also a written update to Commissioners Court and in contact with their staff, Public Works Department, keeping them informed on the developments. And so now I'll talk about the bankruptcy and the default. The bankruptcy, there was a hearing held yesterday, a pretty big one, on the bankruptcy. As a reminder, there are actually two bankruptcies going on right now. They're both Chapter 11, which is the reorganization style of bankruptcy. And so it's with JR Construction, which is the important one for us, and then the sister company, which is called Paso Norte Materials. They're both in Chapter 11. As a reminder from some of our prior meetings, the Attorney General's office on behalf of TxDOT submitted a motion to lift stay so that they could pursue their rights outside of the bankruptcy for the Cesar Chavez project. And that was really the last large bonded project that JAR had that could have brought in significant revenue for the entity. So TxDOT was asking to be removed from the bankruptcy so they could pursue a default. And that hearing was scheduled for yesterday, September 12th. Several additional creditors had motions asking for lift stay as well so that they could pursue their rights on that same hearing date as well. And then the U.S. trustee submitted a motion to dismiss both Chapter 11s. It was a motion to dismiss the JAR bankruptcy as well as the Paso Norte bankruptcy. In the alternative, they asked for the judge to convert the Chapter 11s to Chapter 7, which is liquidation. So that motion was moved to the September 12th hearing, which was yesterday as well. And those motions were based on two primary claims. One was that the entities, JR and Paso Norte, had failed to pay trustee fees to the U.S. trustee, and also they had failed to secure insurance, which we had talked about in prior months, vehicle insurance in particular, so they couldn't operate. So both of those are causes for an argument to be made to convert or dismiss a bankruptcy. So those were added to the hearing yesterday. TxDOT postponed their motion to lift stay until later in the month, so that was at the outset of the hearing. The hearing lasted through about 1 or 2 in the afternoon. It was fairly significant, lot of testimony. In the end, the bankruptcy judge granted the motion to convert both bankruptcies to Chapter 7. So that happened yesterday, just yesterday. So that's the big news on the bankruptcy side. For the default side, as I'd mentioned before, we continue to communicate with the surety's attorneys, trying to get with them to begin discussions on how we're going to move forward on this project. And we now have a meeting scheduled for next week with the surety and the representatives in person here in El Paso to move through those next steps. So that's what I wanted to share with the public. So at this point, I'd ask that we move into executive session to discuss in a
Okay,
little more
and
detail.
maybe you can't discuss this publicly, but the meeting next week means that they're ready to start the process?
I believe so. That's what we're asking for. We've been asking for a meeting to begin the discussion on
For a new
how to take
contractor to
over.
finish the project?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, the time is now 9:55 a.m. on September 13th, 2023, and the CRRMA Board of Directors will now retire into executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071 for purpose of consultation with an attorney. We will reconvene an open meeting upon conclusion of the executive session. I want to thank everyone who was here earlier. They've already kind of run out the door. Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so let me see where we're at. It is now 10:31 a.m. on September 13th, 2023. And the Board of Directors of the CRRMA is reconvening its open meeting after deliberations in executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code, Section 551.071. The board consulted with its attorney but took no action in executive session. And so now we're in open session, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and so with that, is there any other business?
No, ma'am.
Any other comments or questions from the board?
No, Brendan, I'll just rely on you to tell someone about anything.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and if we're going to do an update, you probably need to have a really good one in November, sometime before Thanksgiving.
I looked back, I believe our last strategic planning session was actually May of '22, so it's.
So it's been pretty recent.
Oh.
It was somewhat recent, yes, ma'am.
I thought it was recent, but I still think it'd be good to have a year-end update,
Okay.
and then we can kind of plan, ahead.
So would you like a planning session in October or November in preparation for the December? Maybe late October?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, the
Okay.
other thing is, if we didn't have one until May, we could always do it in early '24 if you want. But I do think it would probably be good just to wrap the year up, and use it as a year, like calendar year wrap-up. In part because Jim's term's gonna be up.
No, it's not ever wrong, it's another year.
Oh, you have another year? Oh, good. Well,
We're
then
stuck
we
with
don't-
them for another year. We
Then
were
we're
wrong
good.
about that.
Oh, well, no worries then. We got you around for,
Silver's not here, I'm big time out numbers.
I'm happy.
I gotta put on some weight.
So, well, there's no pressure. But it's up to you. I think it would still be nice to have a year-end wrap-up, just kind of where we're at. And then
Okay.
it helps lay the groundwork, and then we can plan to do one next summer.
Okay.
Like maybe June, do it during June, like maybe, and I'll get with Tracy, and, I mean, that's 6 months, that's over 6 months down the road. But at least gives us a time frame to start thinking. The other thing is, we really haven't had a good update, because we've been kind of focused on some of these other projects. So it would be good to kind of know where we're at on things, and it'll give us then early 2024 of some things we want to make sure we get done before we have a planning session. Okey-doke?
Okay, I'll do that.
All right. So with that, if there's no other business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Good meeting. It is 10:34 a.m. and we are adjourned.